And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Howdy everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Valor and Villainy, Minions of Mordak. Now this is a dungeon crawl, not really a dungeon crawl, an adventure style game. But what caught my eye on this one here? Well, first of all, it's from Skybound, and they make really spectacularly produced games, and this one is no exception. And it's only one box, lots of stuff inside the box, really neat. I think there's even a Kickstarter version with even better stuff, but this is just the base game. Very, very neat stuff. So I like that idea, and this has a one versus all. One person is playing Mordak, the bad guy, and the other players play against them. So I find that concept to be pretty cool. Most dungeon crawls these days are, it's everybody versus, you know, kind of a computer or a robot or whatever it might be. So this is a neat idea. Like I said, it's gorgeous looking. Let's take a look. You're going to set up a board like this. These buildings are always going to be in the middle. The rest are going to be laid around, and the number of tiles out is going to be less if there's fewer players in the game. You can even play even with less than that if you can just bring in Gus the horse helps you out. Each player is going to pick a character, one of those players being the bad guy. So this is a character, Loxley, and characters are going to have his health points. So here you see you start at 12. The good guy characters, if they die, it just gives the bad guy extra bonuses and ways for them to level up, but you do come back. You also have a number of actions. You start with 2 actions per turn. Now, you have stats here for melee, ranged, and magic. Many times during the game, you'll make an attack or something rolling these dice. So if this person makes a ranged attack, they're going to roll 2 red and 1 yellow, in which case you get 3s. The numbers on these dice are always 1s and 2s, but the white one has blanks. The yellow one has 1 blank and has a 2. I don't think the white one has any 2s at all. And then the red one has no blanks and half the sides are 2s. So red is better. And as the game goes by, you can add dice when you level up to different spots. So I could add a white die and a white die, or upgrade a white to a yellow, or upgrade a yellow to a red. You also will be getting bonus tokens where you can spend these bonus tokens to add to your attacks. Players have special abilities and a spot to keep weapons and items that they find over the turn. Mordak has all the same stuff, although he has an extra stat down here which he'll use to bring more minions on the board. And you can see his stats are much better. He's the bad guy, and his hit points go by 5s. So if he has 35 hit points and you hit him for 4, nothing happens. You have to hit him for at least 5 to keep knocking him down. He is the bad guy. He doesn't show up at the board at the beginning, and instead he keeps track. Here there's a round tracker of 6 days, and different things will happen depending on what day it is. And after the 6th day, he'll come on the board, or if the heroes find a certain number of locations, they can go fight him earlier before he's more powerful. Players start the game with 2 actions, and you can spend upgrades that you find to get 3. And actions can be moving. You can always move 3 spots, or if you move into a mountain range, you can only move 1. As a free action, during your turn, you can always reveal the tiles that are next to you. Although when you reveal a tile, it's possible that monsters will show up. So you can see here, a level 1 monster shows up and ambushes you immediately. We put 2 treasures here. And if you're playing with 2 or more players, a level 2 monster will show up. So there are 3 stacks of monsters. Monsters have double sides, so there's a card that you put on top of them so you can keep this monster hidden. So monsters are going to show up. And when you fight a monster, and that's an action you can use to do melee if you're in the same spot as a monster, or ranged if you're adjacent to them. When you do that, you will roll dice, and the number that you roll is the amount of damage that you do. Now each monster can be wounded. So if I do, for example, 3 damage to this monster here, this elf aesthetician, they're immediately killed. If I do only 1 or 2 damage, instead I'm just going to flip them over, and now they're wounded. Their stats might go down. You can see they have the same stats as heroes, and there's a minion phase after the heroes go and the villain goes where they'll move around and do attacking or ranged attacks on their own. If you defeat them, they're worth a certain number of loot, and you'll be able to see at the end of a round, you'll see how many coins you got, and this gives you, depending on how many players. This is a 1-player game, this is a 2-player game. You'll take the number of coins, and that's how many upgrade points you have, which will let you add dice or get more actions, things like that. Some characters have magic spells. The bad guy has magic spells, and some characters will have magic spells. For magic, you will simply roll a certain amount of dice for your magic ability, and then you'll look at the cost of spells. So like, for example, Magma Rain by the bad guy will deal damage to each region on the map. You'll roll 2 white dice, 2 yellow dice, 3 red dice, depending on how many magic points you spend on this particular card. So you'll be drawing these. This is one of the things you'll be able to do each turn, draw cards from these decks and things, but you'll do so to spend them when you make a magic roll. So the map gets more and more revealed, heroes go around fighting monsters. Eventually, because 6 days have run out, the villain appears, will be moving around the board. Or if you find a certain number of shrines, like for example, finding the Shrine of Bronco is good because the villain loses 10 life when this region's revealed, which is pretty good. So you want to go find regions like this. However, you know, you got to do that in a certain amount of time, and you're fighting monsters, and every time the monsters get defeated, or the heroes get defeated, then the villain Mordak is going to be able to upgrade, and he can upgrade and do all kinds of cool things. Eventually, it's down to Mordak on the map fighting against the heroes, and at that point, they simply need to beat him to win. But if he can defeat 3 heroes, even if it's the same one multiple times, then he wins. And that's the game. The components for this game are great, but I want to talk about the rulebook first. Now, the rulebook isn't a difficult rulebook necessarily to understand, but I didn't like the way it was. There's a few things I found to be not so simple, and part of that is because they explain the hero and the villain rounds together, and it would have been a whole lot easier had they just separated them, because they'll say, this is a villain only action, this is this, then just tell me what the heroes do, then tell me what the villain does. I found that to be a little bit of a problem. They also have a lot of lore in here for no real strong reason at the end, which is okay, but I wouldn't have minded maybe a few more examples of how things work, especially how monsters move. Component-wise, great. I mean, these boards are fantastic. The dual layered boards, I really like the artwork here. All the different cool characters are really well done. I like how you put the tokens fit into these. The dice are good dice. They're good quality dice. The artwork on the tiles is beautiful. I'm just really happy with this production. It fits nicely into this insert. Very good. So the first thing, I love the combat system. It's really simple, well, with one caveat, but it's really simple. You roll dice, you see how many hit points you do. The heroes have different things, and there's a lot of keywords in the game, and I do think they could have written what the keywords do. Like if my character has evade, there's so much room spent on the picture on that character card, you could have written what evade did. Because they're very simple things, but what's the difference between evade and dodge? I don't even remember right now. I'd have to look them up. There's both slightly different. So that's minor, but I like that you just roll dice. That's the amount of damage. I like the half kill monster or completely kill monster. Works really well. I like these monster decks with the face card on top and drawing the cards out. There's a variety of different monsters with different special abilities, and that's fun. It's interesting to see them. And you get these +1 tokens. It has a cool system in which when you attack, and each extra 2 that you don't spend to do other things like damage or whatever, you can spend to get these +1 tokens. You can carry 4 of these +1 tokens. You can even make an attack in an area that there's no monster, just to store up a nose, to prepare. So that's good. The one thing I don't like, and it's a thematic thing, is you have a certain number of actions, 2, 3, 4, 5. As time goes by, you get more actions. That's fantastic, except for some reason, you can only do each action, except move, once. So I can only do melee once. But I could do a melee, ranged, and magic attack on my turn. But I can't do melee twice, and that just seems odd. It's like it's forcing you to diversify your dice so that you can do more stuff on a turn, or else why get the extra 3, 4, 5 actions? That just seemed like an odd rule. Thematically, it's like, well, I could swing, shoot a bow, and do magic, but when you swing, that's all you can do. That just seemed odd. That's a minor thing, but it was something that I definitely noted. I thought the characters felt different. They have cool special powers. You're going to pick one main thing to kind of go into, and the magic system's really cool. Get some cards, roll the magic points and decide which cards you're going to play, and the cards have various levels. That's a great system, and I like that. I like the upgrades. I didn't show you the treasure deck here, but there's all kinds, like this sword here just lets me re-roll a die when I do melee and gives me a plus red die. Some add to your health, but most of them give you dice that you can use to add to your special stats. Great. I know some of you can sense that there's a but coming, and there is. So I like dungeon crawl games where it's one versus all. But they have to work usually in one of two ways. Either you play an excessively dancing game to make the game as balanced as you possibly can. And the closest I've ever seen this happen to was Descent 2nd Edition, where the Overlord there could play as hard as they want against the players, and it comes out as a game. Or that person is there to facilitate a dungeon master experience. They're not there to win, they're there to give the players a challenge, like in a typical role-playing game. And there's several games that do that. This is definitely not give the players a challenge. This is, it feels like the dungeon master's overpowered. It really does. I don't know if they are. I'm sure people will argue and say that they're not. But even though I prefer to have a dungeon master against players, I think this game would highly benefit from just having an automated enemy system. Because the enemies are already pretty powerful and tough and everything. Having a human brain behind them, making decisions, playing, magic cards to mess everybody up. It's just not fun. And there's a lot of cards that the bad guy can play that just make the game less fun for the good guys. But to be clear, the difficulty, which is debatable anyway, is not my complaint here. My complaint is whoever plays the bad guys plays more than everyone else put together. That's a problem. They move all the minions. Every single minion on the board gets to make an action and do some sort of attack. The bad guy's doing that. Then they do their own character, which is basically a full turn. And then we do the heroes. Let's say you're playing against two heroes. Boom, boom. Back to the Dungeon Master. Blah! And I don't know that I like that. With the Dungeon Master getting to play more than everybody else, or I guess I should say not the Dungeon Master, Mordak. Okay? Mordak gets to play more than everyone else, feels like he's more powerful than everybody else, and some of his cards are deliberately making the game less fun. You get one action, you do this, and that sort of thing is not as entertaining. If it's a computer and we get all stuck in the mud, we go, oh, okay, that's fine. But when a player's doing that to you, it's less interesting. And that really brings the game down to me. I still enjoy the game. I still think it's fun. There's a lot of great aspects to it, but that's a big chunk of the game. However, I have heard that the sequel to this game is going to have that with the automated bad guys and everyone works together. Fantastic. I'm going to be on board with that. The upgrades are easy, they're simple, it's fun, you're constantly adding more dice, you get to roll handfuls of dice, you're killing monsters right and left, getting some cool loot, beautiful artwork, beautiful production, many good things to say here. The bad guy thing brings it down for me to being just under where I'm going to recommend it, although maybe that doesn't bother you, in which case check it out. But for me, that's where it's at right now. But I can see the germ of a good, lighter adventure-style game here. A lot of neat stuff, so you might want to check it out for that. Anyway, that's Valor Villainy, Minions of Mordak. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time. Dice Tower Judgment, a lot of cool things. Can't wait to see the next version.